But I would like to do a final piece, I guess, that, like most people get a chance to do.
Just tell off your enemies.
Yeah, just tell them from in alphabetical order.
Let me get out my notes app.
I've been writing these down for years.
We've got an incredible interview with Kenan Thompson. Before we get to it, I just want to mention that Bullseye with Jesse Thorn, that's me, I'm Jesse Thorn, is a production of a worker-owned cooperative called Maximum Fun. And our work is supported directly by you. So I'm going to ask you to go to MaximumFun.org/join. That link is down in the comments. It's MaximumFun.org/join and become a member of Maximum Fun and support our work. It starts at $5 a month. There's all kinds of stuff you can get at $5, $10, $20 a month, all levels. What's important is not the level. What's important is that if you value content like this, you go to MaximumFun.org/join, become a member right now, and support our work. Kenan Thompson, welcome to Bullseye. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Also, thank you for displaying the book.
Oh, I'm glad to. If anybody is watching at home, you can see that I did that thing where you put the book up next to you so it's on my shot. That's a beautiful book. Kenan, when I saw the book was called The Unfunny Bunny, like when it landed on my desk, I assumed it was maybe a book about finding yourself or something. Most picture books are for kids, are about finding yourself, right? And it's actually a book about collaboration. Why did you want to write a picture book about writing jokes with somebody?
I mean, it kind of is the story based from the title. We found the title first kind of thing and then backed into the story from there. I mean, there is some like find yourself stuff in there, but I think the bigger, overall arch is the bunny finding a friend that he can bounce his ideas off of. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing better, I think, than telling a joke and then nobody responds. And then you have to figure out kind of what happened. So if you can not take it like emotionally, personally, you can bridge the gap, and then, it's so much sweeter on the other side because you actually get the laugh you were looking for once you broaden, I guess, your horizons, kind of, if you will.
You wrote this book with Brian Tucker, who is a very long-time writer on Saturday Night Live. Are there writers that you've worked with that you have personally really deeply enjoyed collaborating with?
Tucker. Me and Tucker have written a ton, and he's probably the main person I check in with every single week. I've been written for by like Colin and Seth and Tina over the years, and James Anderson and Paula Pels, Emily Spivey's. But as far as like me having an idea, I usually feel the most comfortable, I guess, going to Tucker since he's been there, because I think we share the same kind of sensibilities, and we did, some pretty dynamic work together, with What's Up With That and John K. John, and, on and on it goes. So yeah, me and Tucker collab, pretty great and solid, together. And I really enjoy working with him because I enjoy like watching him laugh through the process as we're writing, you know what I mean? To see the things that kind of make him laugh. So like I'll be, ad-libbing in the room as he's jotting things down, or he'll be ad-libbing. And as we're figuring it out, kind of watching him giggle it to life is always fun.
What's Up With That is one of the silliest things that has ever been on Saturday Night. In fact, I was going to say on Saturday Night Live, I'm upgrading it to in the history of television. Just one of the silliest things in the history of the world. It is a talk show where you are the host who sings his own theme song. And every time a guest starts to speak, or you even start to introduce a guest, you are derailed by further verses of the theme song that are about whatever's happening in front of you. Whose premise was this?
It was mine. I had an idea for a talk show where the guy doesn't let people talk, and it was like as simple as that. And then, the beauty of writers is they will actually, grow it into something sketch-worthy or television kind of worthy. They can take an idea and just formulate the ABC of it all. And I feel like that premise was so straightforward. It was just like, it's a talk show and the guy doesn't let people talk. And he's like, okay, go further. And then, some inspiration was taken, I think, from Forte when he was on like a morning news show or something, and he was singing like a theme song or something like that kept going on and on and on and on, and it was like super duper long and ridiculous. So that kind of was a little, splash of inspiration too. So between those two kind of things is where we landed on like just singing the theme song kind of over and over, and also like the people coming in and out while we're singing the songs, like Jake the Snake Roberts and stuff like that.
I think that one of your most incredible gifts and skills is a reaction take.
Oh, thanks, man. I love a reaction take.
Yeah. I mean, it shows, right?
Yeah. I love being the representation of what everyone is thinking. You know what I mean? It's an easy bullseye. It's an easy kind of layup. It's not an easy layup, but, it's kind of like so obvious you can't do it wrong unless you make a face that, doesn't really exemplify what's happening kind of thing. But yeah, I love to be right on point with every single person that's experiencing this sketch at that moment. You know what I mean? Like, no matter kind of like if the sketch is broad enough, doesn't matter where you come from or what your, reference material might look like or how old you are, this, that, and the other. You've been taken on a journey, and then it gets to a point where it's time for, everyone to react to something that's not necessarily a joke. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a thought. And then for me to be the person to personify that is just, it's exhilarating.
Do you practice takes?
I don't. It's kind of me reacting to it as I would naturally, and it just happens to fit what everybody else is thinking as well. But it's an exaggerated version because I don't make faces when I have thoughts. You know what I mean?
Do you watch yourself on camera afterwards?
Very limitedly, yes. But, it's random. Like, there were times when I felt left out of the conversation of what people were enjoying about my work, and I couldn't relate. So I felt like I was letting them down when I would bump into them out in the world, and I would have no concept of what they were talking about because it's just so much going in and out. A lot of probably like what do they call it when you like you exit your body, you're not really there. You know what I mean?
Like a dissociation.
Yes, a lot of dissociation kind of stuff going on. So it's like I was just way too oblivious.
Unless you're talking about astral traveling. It's possible you're talking about astral travel.
Super astral traveling in the middle of the show. And then
you're
coming
in
back.
Egypt
You know
with
what I mean?
pharaohs.
And just having a whole nother experience. But yeah, so I started to watch, and then it just, I don't know, it's just more fun kind of being there. So I feel you, Idris Elba. He won't watch The Wire, which is crazy. But I get it.
I mean, he's missing out on the best television show.
He did some great work. I don't know if he wants to watch it. Thank you, but yeah, it's a weird dynamic to watch yourself, so.
But you've been on camera since you were a child. Did you ever get camera training besides the, community theater you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess yes, because we were taught how to audition or whatever. So there was a lot of like, but that was just, one camcorder on a tripod in a room. I think the training for multicams actually came from being in multicam kind of situations, so yeah, this is one of those, you learn on the fly, learn by doing kind of jobs, I guess.
You mentioned liking to be the proxy for the audience when you're on camera.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sketches that you're a regular in, recurring sketches that you're a regular in, is Black Jeopardy. One of the things that's really amazing to me about that sketch is you're standing there hosting this show. And the premise usually is that there's two black contestants and one white contestant. The white contestant is out of place through their whiteness and often another thing, right?
Yes.
And that white contestant is like a movie star because they're usually the host of the show. So it's like, it's like Elizabeth Banks or Tom Hanks standing there.
Mm-hmm.
That movie star standing next to two of your castmates who are also brilliant sketch performers doing like really specific, vivid characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you carry the show. You carry the sketch. Like, it is your sketch. as the straight man, as a guy who is just sort of cocking your head from time to time.
Yeah, I enjoy being a maestro for sketches. I don't have to necessarily be, the actual like kind of punchline king of the sketch. Like, I feel like the straight man gets just as many laughs if you play it real enough, because like I said, it's another example of what everybody's thinking kind of thing. And I get to make sure it's moving along. So if it's, if things aren't landing, I can pick up the pace. Or if things are like really getting laughed at, I can allow it to breathe, and it's like, I enjoy having the hands on the knob, because I think I focus on that. And a lot of people in their newer years, will just blow right through laughs or something like that, or they won't necessarily grasp the timing of things to kind of allow the flow, the ebb and flow or whatever of a sketch, when it's going well kind of thing. So I feel, kind of well utilized in roles like that. Like, Steve Harvey is me doing a big character, but it's the same thing, like I'm kind of guiding us through the Family Feud sketch and like trying to make everything, move along, but also, be very clear and transparent as far as like where the fun is happening, if you will.
I'll tell you, as a viewer of Saturday Night Live, since before you were on the show and in the many years that you've been on the show, something that I saw was, and you can tell me if I'm full of baloney, but you've always been an immensely charming performer. Like another one of your great gifts is you could sell water to a whale.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I like to have a good time.
But, sorry. I feel like when you first got on the program, your performances leaned on that a little harder. They were a little less specific and a little bit closer to the kind of sketch comedy that you did as a teenager when you were entertaining other teenagers and, 11-year-olds on all that.
Yeah.
And that maybe 4 years in, and like your charm and gifts were enough to bring you through. I mean, you really knew what you were doing, but like maybe 4 or 5 years into your career, for me as a viewer, it went from me being like, yeah, he's good at doing that kid thing that he did as a kid. He's great. He's as good as anybody could ever be at that, to, oh, that charm plus his grown-up skills is a rocket ship. You know what I mean?
Thank you. I mean, at that point, like, I still, like, I only have like a high school diploma. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't graduate college kind of thing. So I think my reference, life wisdom was just, a lot more kind of singular at that point, just being from Atlanta and kind of being proud and standing on that. And like, yes, I like went to LA and stuff and like went to a couple years of Santa Monica College, but it was like high school all over again. So I don't think I necessarily grew in any sort of way. And then I got on SNL and started growing by the day, just being around brilliant people in front and behind the camera. And I think I just, elevated my worldly knowledge, because I didn't even know who George Harrison was. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a real thing. Like, Jenna had a George Harrison, like, cartoon, like Beatles from like back in the 70s when they used to do the like Michael Jackson and the Beatles cartoons. It was like a George Harrison drawing in that style where he was like super skinny or whatever, like those skinny legs and big feet kind of thing or whatever. And it was like the Beatles across it, and then it said like George Harrison or something. I was like, who's George Harrison? And she was like, you don't know who George Harrison is? I was like, is he one of the Beatles? Like, I thought it was Ringo and the other two. And yeah, and then she was like, My Sweet Lord, and I was like, oh yeah, yes, but just calling out his name, I didn't know that. And to me, that reflects all you need to know about what I knew about other cultures at that point. You know what I mean? Like, my upbringing was very Motown and very soulful and very Atlanta and very black. So, I just wasn't aware of a lot of things. And I knew what I knew, especially kind of performance-wise. So yeah, coming from Kid Space, I think I was still doing high energy, over exaggerated things as opposed to letting them build kind of thing. I would just come in hot, you know, on page 2 or whatever, just, you know, eager or excited and, you know, kind of just doing what I knew. And then I learned, you know, from, like Lauren was a major, you know, kind of factor in, you know, teaching us to like let it grow. You know what I mean? Like don't come in on, you know, on a high 10 because it'll have nowhere else to go kind of thing. And, you know, annoying him is one of the like most terrifying things in your life when you're a new cast member. You know what I mean? So I think you learn quick and you definitely like take the note to like relax a little bit and also, you know, do things that are, you know, a little more mature.
You are rare in being a cast member of Saturday Night Live who has kids.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 kids. I guess they're probably like 12 and 10 or something like that now.
Close, yeah, 7 and 11.
What is it like for you to go to work with people who are, you know, 24 years old and discovering the big city? You know what I mean?
It's the
and you're
worst. Like those young people that get to sleep in till 3 in the afternoon and just act like that's normal. Because I remember being that way. I used to sleep till 2 o'clock because I worked a night job and like I didn't have to get up in the morning kind of thing. So that would be my excuse not to be on that schedule. And everybody else was like, I kind of enjoyed being on a different schedule than most of the world kind of thing. I felt, you know, different. I felt kind of special or whatever. But it was also like hard to make it to the post office and like get to the bank on time. You know what I mean? When you're just, you know, living your 20s, your best life in your 20s kind of thing. But, you know, I do love them. I'm just joking. But it's funny to watch them all process wanting to invite me places and then realizing that I have to get up, you know, in the morning, you know, kind of thing. They're just like, oh, don't you want to like come to this next kind of thing? And then we'll all just be out for forever. Oh, that's right. you can't. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you later, man. I was like, yeah, that's how life is. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like I had my times, and I'm beyond proud to be a dad, you know, to my angels.
Hey, Bullseye viewer. I'm cutting into this great interview because I want to explain to you the Max Fund Drive. It is the 2 weeks or so every year that Bullseye asks you to directly support the work that we do. Bullseye isn't produced by NPR or a big public radio station. We're produced by a worker-owned cooperative called Maximum Fun here in Los Angeles. And this video capability is something that we have just added to our show. This is Daniel Spear. He is our video producer. Daniel, thank you for wearing your formal outfit for today's pitch. Mm-hmm. Daniel, you've been at Maximum Fun for what, a year or so?
A year and a half about.
Yeah.
Part-time, and then now it's been a year and a half, I'd say.
We're really thrilled to have you working on Bullseye. We previously were an audio-only program.
True.
What did we have to do to get video set up here?
Well, this is our new studio, and so it took 3 cameras. We've got an ATEM switcher, we've got backup recorders, we've got SSDs, we've got lights, and all that set dressing that you see around here. The hours of discussion over whether this pill should be here or that plant. Really.
Okay, this is a microphone. This is not a. Here's the message that we're trying to convey to you. All of this great Bullseye video that you've been watching on YouTube or watching on social media is supported by a full-time staff member, all of this equipment, and we have to pay for it. So we hope that you will become a member of Maximum Fun. That means slide us a few bucks a month, whether it's $5, $10, $20 a month at MaximumFun.org/join and say that you think that an operation like this should continue to exist. Again, we're not getting our money from the government. We're not getting our money from some big organization. We're actually a small worker-owned collective of about 20 people who produce this program. And we're really proud that we have added all these great videos that you've been enjoying watching, but we need your support to make them happen. Now, I will say this, Daniel, you don't just have to do it out of the kindness of your heart. You also get stuff.
You do get stuff.
If you go to MaximumFun.org/join, you become a member at the $5 a month level. You get access to this huge trove of content that is only for members, including this year we had a great time going to the Paper World Stationery Expo and doing an out-of-the-studio Bullseye with all of the junk journaling enthusiasts there. Junk journaling, if you're not on journaling TikTok, I guess,
Sure, yeah.
is a thing where you save your trash, sort it by color, and glue it into a book. But it's much nicer than that. Mm-hmm. And we met all these nice people who do it at the Paper World Stationery Expo and put together an entire episode just about that. It was such a great time. That's exclusive for members. We also have lots of other member exclusive content. If you're wondering how Bullseye gets made, that's one of the things you can find out. And last year we made an entire show that was called Hey, What's Your Job? Where we talked to people with unbelievable jobs, including like the city manager of Weed, California, about what they do in their day-to-day lives. All of them Max Fun supporters, Bullseye listeners, and we got to know what it's like to be a professional maker of robes for Buddhist monks. We met some really fascinating people. A guy who was in a band in college that fizzled out, then later became famous and has a job, and then on weekends he sometimes flies to Brazil to play a stadium show. All kinds of really cool stuff in the members only feed. And at $10 a month, you get this awesome keychain, which you can put on your backpack, you can put it on your purse, you can put it on your keys. Daniel, I believe that I have now, by going like this, made you super.
I have to get it. Yeah, I gotta get a PNG, gotta float it, add drop shadow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dana, what does it mean to you to work at a worker-owned cooperative rather than making videos for a Peanuts company or something?
I have a say, and it also feels like there's a bit more of like a creative element to it that I haven't had in previous jobs. I feel like I can take a day off without everything exploding. I feel like I'm supported by my staff, and it's a good environment. People are overall, compared to other jobs that I've had, are overall happier.
So if you are enjoying these videos, if you enjoy listening to Bullseye, whether it's on the radio or on the podcast, we're asking you to become a member of Maximum Fun and be the reason that this show exists.
It takes a lot of work to put a show like this together, and just $5 a month, that's all it takes to be a member to get all that access to all that content. The link is going to be in the description, and it would be great if you could support us.
MaximumFun.org/join. You mentioned this, but you grew up in a very black world. Like, I'm from San Francisco. I live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The first time I went to Atlanta, I was like, it is so easy in Atlanta to not just be in a black world, but to be specifically in a middle and upper middle class black world. You know, I think it is probably the place in the United States where it is easiest to do that, to find yourself surrounded by middle class people, and, you know, a major majority of them, like a dominant majority of them, are black. And I think that was part of your experience as a child. Did you realize that in other parts of the United States or the world that was unusual?
Yes. I realized that Atlanta was special in that way for that reason. Like, it was a place where black people could come and elevate, or be from there and elevate. You know what I mean? It wasn't such a surprise to see a black person, you know, driving a sports car or driving a Rolls Royce or driving something really nice or pulling up to a big house, because, you know, there was a lot of things or a lot of factors that made that a real legal reality. You know, you had a lot of like music exploding out of the side of Atlanta. You know, we had athletes for forever. You know what I mean? A lot of athletes like being in Atlanta, you know, kind of thing. So, you know, we had our Dominiques and people that had big houses and things. Like, we were used to seeing black people doing well.
You were the right age to remember when Deion Sanders was playing baseball and football in Atlanta and riding back and forth in that helicopter.
Forget about it. You know what I mean? It was the greatest thing ever, because it started with the Jerry curl Deion. You know what I mean? And that was when it was like, yeah, he's one of us kind of thing. Like, he's coming from, you know, real project situation to all of a sudden money overnight, and it's going to take a minute before he's going to let that Jerry curl go. It was a wonderful thing to witness. You know, it always is.
You also, I mean, you mentioned music. You're of the exact right age to have been in your prime, like self-discovering period of life when Outkast was putting Atlanta hip hop on the map nationally, to have like probably the greatest hip hop group of all time who is from Atlanta, and not just coincidentally, but like that is so essential to who they are and was so new in hip hop nationally.
Shout out to the Dungeon family. You're 100% accurate on that. Like, I am one of the biggest Outkast fans you could ever probably meet. You know, Big Boy is a close, dear friend. You know, 3000 is, you know, in the wind, but, you know, everybody, you know, he's 3000, you know what I'm saying? He's the man kind of thing. And the two of them together just put Atlanta on the map at the same time that the Braves were, that, you know, other factors, you know, TLC and, you know, Dallas Austin and, you know, a lot of, you know, LaFace, like all of a sudden, like Babyface came to Atlanta. It's like, you know, he's not from Atlanta, but he came to Atlanta to set up like music and, you know, like they did their thing. L.A. Reid, you know what I mean? Like we thought L.A. Reid should be in L.A. just based on his name, but he was in Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? So it was just a dynamic time for that city. And then once we got the Olympics, it just exploded. So yeah, man, it was really fun, like, because I guess your high school ears will be your ears kind of forever. So that was Outkast all day.
I mean, I remember what it meant to me as a 10, 11-year-old when Hammer and Tony
Mm-hmm.
and Rappin' Forte and a little very shortly after that E40 were becoming these national figures. Like, to have somebody say in a song a corner that you know, or a mall that you've been to,
a street, any of that. I mean, that's how Too Short got on, you know, like naming drug dealers. And then they would buy his tapes because he put their name in it. And that's how it all started. So, like, I understand the localized obsession of things when you hear them on records. But at the same time, the people have to have talent, you know what I mean? And there was just an abundance of talent there with the whole, like, Dungeon family movement. So, yeah, it was just right. It was a righteous time.
Were you a nerd as a kid?
Yeah, I'm still a nerd. You know, I have my nerdy ways. I'm a cool nerd, if you will, but I definitely like, you know, like I enjoyed kind of like Japanime growing up kind of thing, which I think is a, you know, a key indicator. I got, you know, like 1350 on my SATs, whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like, I was a decent student. So I was not kind of like overly rambunctious necessarily because I didn't want to get in trouble. You know, I wanted to, like, yeah, just not hear that from my mom.
What was it like for you when you started working in show business? Like, I'm talking about even just commercials, but certainly all that, which you got when you were 15, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were in these situations where you were there maybe with your mom, and you know, there's not much of show business that has the amount of blackness that the neighborhood you grew up in Atlanta did.
Very true. Case in point, my haircut through the entire Mighty Ducks 2 movie.
Can I tell you? So, like, my late aunt's brother was a hairdresser. And when I was a kid, he was Wesley Snipes' personal hairdresser.
Fantastic.
As a white person, until I was probably 21 years old, like I met Wesley Snipes, the whole 9 yards. Until I was probably 21, 23 years old, I'm like, this is the most ridiculous movie star thing I've ever heard of, that Claudia's brother is his travels with him. He doesn't even have a haircut, like outside of Demolition Man, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I realized, oh, it's because if you're a black movie star, you can't rely on there being a person who knows how to cut black people's hair on set.
It's one of the greatest, like, acceptance speeches I've ever seen was Eddie Murphy talking about Sidney Poitier at the Griot Awards. It number one, showcases how funny Eddie Murphy can be at any given moment. But number two, yeah, he was, you know, preaching an age-old kind of thing, that there was not a lot of, like, black hairdressers readily available on everything. So going from Sidney Poitier times to me in 1994, not much had changed. There wasn't, a barber on the set to kind of cut my hair. It was just some older white lady who kind of just did what she wanted to do. And then I didn't really have an actual shaped hairstyle until we did the reshoots where, they kind of recruit me onto the team, but it's like in the middle of the movie. So you don't really realize that it happened after the whole shoot and it was a reshoot thing. It was like an added on kind of thing. But I had gone home and like gone back to my neighborhood and got a haircut, you know what I mean? And it was living life. And then they called back for that one scene where they bring me in and add me onto the team kind of thing. But, lesson learned, I guess. Like as time goes on, you learn that you can demand things or, times have just gotten better and there's just more, readily available people that can handle black hair kind of thing. But it was definitely on display in that one.
I think when all that came on television, it was distinctive that it had multiple black cast members.
Yeah, and like, the musical guests were in the hip hop and R&B zeitgeist as well. So that was a very forward progressive kind of thing that they focused in on that specifically. I mean, we had pop kind of people later, but in the beginning it was very hip hop focused.
I think that besides some sort of like stylistic things that brought you together, that must have been one of the big things that drew you to Kel Mitchell when you showed up to work the first day.
Day one. Not necessarily in the first few hours because I was awkward and we had to go to school for the first 3 hours. So I kind of just, was doing my work and I was kind of cast last and they had this whole like pizza party thing or something where they got to meet each other. And I missed that because I was, one of the last two people added on or whatever kind of thing. They knew each other and I was just shy, kind of introverted and I didn't really speak to anybody. I just kind of did my work and then we went to set and started like performing and that's when I came out of my shell, I guess. And then Kel and I did Mavis and Clavis together and that's when we were just bonded, like undeniable, like this guy gets it, he's definitely from a similar kind of, upbringing as I am and he has a similar sense of humor and, our moms are both 5 foot flat and take no mess and like all that. So we had a lot to kind of immediately relate to and he just became my brother.
You went through a period of your career after your teenage years and before Saturday Night Live, where you had a really fallow period in that you had to declare bankruptcy because you had a business manager who had messed up your finances, not paid your taxes, and by the time you got Saturday Night Live, you needed the job in a way that people might not imagine, given that they knew who you were from your teenage years.
Oh, yeah.
Is that always in your mind that you there was a time in your life when you had it made and then there was a time after that where it was all unmade?
Is it on my mind like now? Yeah. It's just one of those things that you keep as the kind of like when you tape off and in a dangerous area kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, that's the border of a place that I'm not going back to. Just having my bank accounts in those ranges where it's like, is at zero or is at negative, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. And I tend to make sure that, I don't go anywhere near that again kind of thing. So yeah, it's a cautionary tale that's in the back of my mind for sure. But also like the traveling salesman life of an actor, it keeps it on the forefront of your mind too, because, nothing is guaranteed work-wise and there's, big gaps in between moments a lot of the time for actors where they're working and then they're not working kind of thing. It's a thing that happens kind of. So, another, reason why, if you ever wonder why I continue to do SNL kind of thing, like that's a factor, it's also another factor to, not necessarily have to go to New Zealand for 4 months at a time and be away from my kids kind of thing. While they're babies, like I want to be around kind of thing. Like once they become adults and they don't want nothing to do with me anymore, then I won't mind kind of, taking, jobs that take me away for so long kind of thing, or seeking out employment that kind of can be all over the world and not really worry about, being like readily available all the time in one specific place. But yeah, SNL has just been a godsend that they continue asking me to come back, in a way that like allows for stability in my life kind of thing. So I'm beyond grateful to do it. It's not like, don't you get tired of it? It's like, no, I get tired of the mystery of not knowing where your next job is coming from.
Do you still have to wait for the call that you're being invited back in the summer from Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, especially when you're in between deals kind of thing. So this summer, after the 50th, there was a lot of up in the air kind of moments. They didn't know what the budget for the show was going to be, what it was going to be affordable or not. So a lot of people came down to the last minute because they were done with, multi-year kind of situations. And that was me. I had finished, a 3-year pre-negotiated thing, and it was renegotiation time or whatever. And it took a while. And it was not pleasant because I was facing decisions that, I'm always ready for like, what's next kind of thing. Like I was an actor before I got to the show. So it's not like I don't know the business, outside of it. But at the same time, when you're dealing with like, am I coming back to the show or not? I didn't get a chance to do my last farewell kind of sketch kind of thing. So that was in the back of my mind. So I was like, man, that might suck if that's the outcome. I just, did my last show without knowing it was my last show kind of thing, which, it might be pros and cons based on how many tears might be shed after 23 years or 22 years at the time or whatever it was. But I would like to do a final piece, I guess, that, like most people get a chance to do.
Just tell off your enemies.
Yeah, just tell them from in alphabetical order.
Let me get out my notes app.
I've been writing these down for years.
Kenan, thank you so much for taking all this time to talk to me, and thanks for your wonderful work. It's just such a joy to watch you on television.
Thank you, man. It's my pleasure.
I'm so glad we all get to.
Really enjoyed the chat, man. I enjoy a nice back and forth, so I appreciate it.